Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm HKM&x and today we are going to talk about something which every finance team needs: fixed assets depreciation. Whether you're tracking laptops, machinery, furniture, Excel can help you maintain full fixed assets list, monthly accounting entries, and keep your fixed asset register audit ready. So let's get started. For the fixed asset maintenance, these are the columns that we are going to add, which includes asset category, date of purchase, ID, name, supplier, useful life, depreciation end date, and there are some columns which will use for calculation of depreciation. That is, what is the opening depreciation, which is carried forward from previous year, monthly depreciation, so you will have month-wise depreciation calculation, total amount for the entire year, closing depreciation, which is opening plus total, and the net asset value in the end, which is the purchase value minus what is the closing or accumulated depreciation for that asset. So let's get started. For the columns, I'm simply going to copy these from here and I will paste it over here. So I'm going to paste, let's say, special values transpose, so I can have this. Now asset category, I can either create it as a column or I can simply have it as a heading and for all my assets. So I'm going to use the second option here. So I don't want the asset category so that I can fit more values here. So let's just delete this and shift cells to the left. Same thing for here. Making it bold for better reading purposes. Increase the height of this column. Use the word wrap option. Wrap this text. So we can have columns resized a little bit. Now in terms of monthly depreciation, we need to have month-wise depreciation amounts. So for that, I'm going to remove this and I will insert few columns here so that I can have January to December values inserted. So let's just now look at this value. I'm preparing the sheet for 2021. So I'm going to start this from January 2021, so on and so forth till December. You can simply drag it till the end, so you get all the months till December. Now for the fixed assets, I have done some working here, so I'm going to just copy these values for our example. We'll come back to this sheet later on. I'll tell you more about it. So here we have these values, so let's just copy till here. Okay, so let's say these are the assets. So now these are the values that we have in front of us. Now in terms of depreciation end date, now generally what you would get with your supplier invoice is your date of purchase, the asset name or description, who is the supplier, and based on your company policies you can have the category defined and the useful life for that particular category. So in our company, let's say we have furniture and fixtures, and the value or the life of the asset is 5 years, so it is 60 months. Similarly, for our office equipments, maybe the life of the asset is 3 years, so it is 36 months. Now we will need a total column, so I'll just put a total furniture and fixtures, and this will be a sum formula. I can just press Alt is equal to on the keyboard and that will get me the sum formula. Same thing I will do for the office equipment, so I'll have total office equipments, and here also I'll have a sum formula. Now this is a very simple way of maintaining the fixed assets. In the end you will have a grand total, and that will be a sum of these two values. So we have a grand total. Let's just put some formatting to it. So here we can have a top border. Same format can be applied to office equipments, and for the grand total I will have top border and double bottom border. Great. Now comes the opening depreciation part. Since these are all assets which are bought in this particular year, so the opening depreciation, that is the depreciation carried forward from the last year, will be 0. Sum formula remains as it is. And then the depreciation. Now if the asset is purchased in the month of June, so I want to start the depreciation from the month of June. You could have different ways of doing it. You could do it based on the exact number of days, or full month basis. So even irrespective of the date on which the asset was bought in a particular month, we can charge full month depreciation starting from that month itself. You could choose a method which is more apt or suitable for your company. So in this case, the calculation is very simple. The purchase amount minus residual value divided by the useful life. That is, the residual value is the value of the asset at the end of the life of the asset. So I'm assuming at the end of life of these assets, the value will become 0. So let's calculate depreciation for this asset. For this, we'll use a formula. We'll divide the purchase amount by its useful life in months to get the depreciation for that particular month. Now this is calculated. Now here, when I'm looking at this formula, I don't want these columns to shift. So for example, the column G and E. So I'll put a $ here in front of this G and E. So when I copy this formula to the right, or if I copy it down, I can get the values as per my requirement. So this is fixing of the reference. So let's say these assets, all these assets were bought in the month of June. So the depreciation starts in the month of June. So let's just copy this formula till December. And for these assets, like this particular asset was bought in the month of March, the second one is May. So I'll do it like starting from March. The second one is May. Copy the formulas, and we have our depreciation calculated on a monthly basis. Now we'll use the sum formula till the end here. Now for the total depreciation and closing depreciation values, just a sum formula again is equal to sum of all these values from January till December. Copy this down till the end. Closing depreciation will be equal to opening depreciation plus the total depreciation provided in this year. Net asset value is equal to the purchase amount of the asset minus the closing depreciation or the accumulated depreciation. So let's just copy this for office and equipment. Now we have one issue here. We have got numbers in a lot of decimals. So we can quickly correct that by using a rounding formula. So I'll just put a round formula in front of our calculation, and I will round it to 2 decimals. So number of digits I want to round it to is 2. And I'll copy this for all my calculations. So here we have now perfectly rounded numbers, and we can get our depreciation numbers in 2 decimals easily. Now this is our fixed asset register ready to be used for your company. When you get more assets in any category, you can add it here by inserting a line. If you want to add another category, that can also be done, like motor vehicles, so on and so forth. But there is some manual intervention required for every asset to be added in this one. Now let's see how much of it we can automate it using Excel formula. How many things. So let's say when I started doing this is how I prepared, and then I realized that okay, every year there are certain changes which need to be done. So for example, if I want to do this for the next year, I will copy this sheet here, and then I'll have to change the dates. I'll have to make sure the opening depreciation is correct. Then I'll have to make sure all the formulas are entered correctly. So there's a lot of checking which has to be done. Let's see how we can avoid it. So I'm gonna delete this sheet. Now what I've done is for the same working that we did just now. So let's just compare it. Here I've got my net asset value still 59,191. Even in this sheet it should match to the same value. So I've the same formula and everything. Now let's see how we can automate. So I've already highlighted the cells where the automation can be done. Now example, the depreciation end date we have put in manually, calculating based on the useful life of the asset. I can automate it by using the e-date formula, where I put e-date open parenthesis, what is the starting date, comma, how many months do you want to add. So let's say in this case I want to add 60 months, which is there in a column. Close the bracket, enter. So it calculates 60 months later what will be the date. So it will be 22nd June 2026. But for my ending date I want 1 day less, so I'll just put -1 in front of it, and this will be copied down for all the values. So now this particular part is automated. So whenever I add an asset, I'll just copy the formula, so the depreciation end date will be reflected automatically. Second thing are these dates which are mentioned in the heading, January, February, March. So if I change it for 2022, I have to change all these dates. So can I use the edate formula here? Yes. So I can do that. Edate, open parenthesis, this is my starting date. Now by default it wants how many months do you want to add. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put -11 instead of plus. So I'm just going to close this bracket. So what it does is now it is doing a reverse calculation. It's subtracting 11 months from this particular date here. Now two things I'm going to make a change here. I want to fix the reference. I'm going to select it here and I can press the F4 sign on the keyboard. So that will add dollar signs for this particular cell. And second thing, instead of having -11, -10 and so on and so forth, I can actually look at putting this as a value even in a cell. So I can put it here as -11, -10. So I put it in white font here, so it's not, the green font, same like the loose background and the font color is same, so you cannot see it right now. But here in the formula, I will change it and select this cell as a reference. Now when I copy this to the right, the values are all updated based on a formula. So just to get this example clear, we will change the date later on and see how this will affect our column headings. Another thing that we can do is change this formula. So I've kept a copy of something advanced. So I'll give you the logic here. So for calculating depreciation, what we are saying is this particular month, if I want to calculate depreciation, this has to be greater than my purchase date and it has to be less than my depreciation end date. So I can do that by using an AND formula. Just to show it to you here, and I want to give a logical test that this particular month is greater than my purchase date, comma, this one is less than my depreciation date. You could even put is equal to make the formula include these dates also. So I'll just put is equal to, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and then I'll get this value which says false. Now in Excel what happens is true in binary terms is saved as 1, false is saved as 0. So when I apply this formula and multiply it by my depreciation formula, example this one, so automatically the system will make it 0 because it has a false value which is 0. Multiplying it with any formula, it is getting a 0 value. So this one I've copied it with certain reference I've fixed because I don't want the values or the dates and these dates to change when I copy the formula. You can refer to this one where I have done the date I will move, so the column is not locked but the row is locked, 5 is locked, so I put a dollar sign in front of 5, so on and so forth. Now when you copy this formula for all your assets, so now the values are calculated automatically without a manual intervention where you need to specify that, okay, I want to start calculating in the month of March. So let's just see how it works. Copy it for these ones also, and there is no need to enter manual 0. So now this also helps automate it a little more. Now let's look at what happens when you change the date. So when I copy this and I want to have a 2022, let's call it basic again. Now in this case I'm gonna just change the dates to 2022 and all your values, the months, the headings, the depreciation, everything gets updated. The only thing that you need to update now is the opening depreciation. Add the new assets which you have procured in that particular month or the financial year, and then this will get updated automatically. So here for getting the opening depreciation, we will use a formula of XLOOKUP. We will look up for this asset ID, comma, in this particular column in the sheet, comma, and I want the values from the closing depreciation of 2021 because that becomes my opening depreciation for 2022. Close the brackets, enter. So copy this formula, you have your opening depreciation. So that can also come using a formula provided you have already given an asset ID for all your assets, a unique asset ID for all the assets. So that's it about fixed asset register and using some Excel formulas to automate it to avoid mistakes. By the way, if you need help with setting up your fixed asset register or the accounting and ERP solution in your company, that's where Cefi Computers comes into picture. We have helped over 2000 companies since 2011, so you're in good hands. We have implement solutions like Sage, QuickBooks, Tally, Zoho, Odoo, Microsoft, so on and so forth. Get in touch with us. You can find the link in the description or visit ceficomputers.com for more information. Now let's get back to our Excel sheet. One last point to remember. So when you keep on doing this and copying the sheets to next year, so in this example I've done it for year 22, 23, 24. Coming to the 24, you will see one issue happening in the end, that is your net asset value. Because we are using the rounding of numbers, the net asset value can go into negative. So we need to avoid that. So to do that, it's very simple. What I'm doing here in my case, just to make sure that nothing goes into negative, I want the sheet to tell me if something has gone wrong. So I've put a conditional formatting to it. So I can select this, for example, I can select this entire line. I can go to conditional formatting and I can specify a formula which says that, okay, if my value in this particular cell, if I'm looking at the value in the cell W, this one, yep, so W16, if it goes less than 0, I want it to be formatted. I want to give a complete red color to it as a background so that it catches my attention. So I've put that formula here and I've clicked OK. And once you copy this formula, you could apply it for all the cells or all the lines in your sheet. So example, if you copy this, format, and now paste it here, the same thing could be done for the entire asset list. So now what happens, the moment a value goes into negative, because I cannot have a negative value in my assets, it turns red. So I can simply, instead of having some complicated formulas, what you could do is, this is a difference of 0.16. So in the last month where the depreciation is calculated, you could simply do this 0.16 less, so reduce the depreciation amount by those 16 fils or by say or cents, so that it gets adjusted, the net value becomes 0. Same thing I would do it for the second line, and that's how I'll solve it. So this is an important tip. Keep this in mind, apply it into your sheet so that you don't have negative asset values in your fixed asset register. See how easy that was? If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Keep watching and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you and have a nice day.